You are Locked On NC State, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Wolfpack fans. It's me again, Kenton Gibbs, bringing you another episode of Locked On Wolfpack. And folks, I haven't really talked about football in quite some time because it's the off season. But I figure why not get a way too early 2022-2023 season prediction going here, because this is something that I've seen our schedule and I thought a lot about it. And honestly and truly, this schedule needs to be talked about, because I know that this year we thought like, oh, we may not see anything better than what we have going on this year. But this schedule is a lot more favorable than the 2021 schedule. Like, by a lot. All right, so hear me out. Last year, if we look at the way that the schedule shook out, okay? Mississippi State. First of all, USF. They hit their stride later in the season. They figured out how to effectively run the ball. Of course, they had a cast technician at the head of their running ball. But when they first started off that season, they had no identity offensively. And it wasn't just against NC State. It was against multiple teams where it just didn't look like they knew what they wanted to do. They knew what they wanted their identity to be. Because don't get me wrong, even when teams get beat up on bad, there is still, you can see a team that's trying to establish a certain thing, trying to do a certain thing. We were fortunate to catch them early in the situation where even if late in the season, I think we beat them. But the reality is they were just outgunned in that one, and it was early enough in the season where they hadn't established anything. Mississippi State on the road, second game of the season. That one's a little tougher because they came out of Louisiana Tech in the perfect situation. They won a game, but it was much closer than it should have been. So Coach Leach can go back and say, this is the problem. These are the things that we did wrong, and this will get us beat. This will get us whooped on going into a game that you're obviously going to be motivated to play it, but going into that game, you're looking at a situation where, like I said, you've learned a lesson in a win. Like, sometimes people get softened by success, and if you keep winning, you just let the little details slip. But that's if you win in dominating fashion. This team had to come back and win by the skin of their teeth against Louisiana State. So, I'm sorry, Louisiana Tech, not Louisiana State, Louisiana Tech. And so, coming into our game against them, not only were they motivated from that factor, but also we pissed down our leg majorly. Again, running a jump pass on a 1 yard line with Ika Makwanu, a guy who's probably going to be one of the first 3 offensive linemen off the board in this year's NFL draft. We decided jump pass. Okay, Furman, you do what you're supposed to do. You're expected to dominate there. That Clemson game was not a super favorable situation for us. Like, it really wasn't. I know that we won the game. I know that, we come out of that looking good. It was not a super favorable situation for us. What do I mean by that? Okay, so they lose to Georgia. They go in, blow out South Carolina State, played a really, really close, really tight game against Georgia Tech. But mind you, coming in, everybody saw that game, that Georgia Tech game, as another blowout. So people weren't expecting they're going to be competing and fighting and battling their lives out in order to win that game. Now, in reality, it did work out well because Clemson started to hit their stride late, but that was at the point where they had the injuries started to pile up. So that game, it kind of worked out in our favor, but I'm going to talk about why in the 2022-2023 season, our matchup against Clemson also kind of works for us. And then, of course, Louisiana Tech after that. Close game, tough game, sure. Boston College, no Phil Dracovic. That was definitely in our favor. Miami, we came to see them when they were just getting used to playing without De'Aaron King. And that's not an excuse. We should have won that game, period. We should have won that game. Our corners wet the bed in a way that, wow. It was surprising to see the fact that we were beat, in essence, by one receiver. That was just flatly amazing. And then, of course, Louisville, Florida State, 2 games that we should win handily. We won both handily and came at good times. Wake Forest. That was another game that we should have won. But that situation, coming into the season, nobody expected what Wake Forest was. But even still, if you're looking at how everything played out, historically, we have not played well at Wake Forest on the road. That's just always been the case, and we held true to serve there. Right? They were coming off of the University of No Consequences game, so we expected a situation where that team was going to be wore down, beat up a little bit, and we'd be able to get a win. That was not the case. We lose on the road at Wake. And then, of course, Syracuse, great situation for that. Syracuse is Syracuse. They again, as much as I like Dino Babers, he's wet the bed multiple times. He's let that team down, and their loss has been a direct result of his inaction or of his poor clock management or something like that. So, it's never really a terrible time to play a Syracuse team. And of course, the amazing comeback against the University of No Consequences. But at the end of the day, it's rivalry week. You're always going to see them at the end of the year. That is what it is, okay? That just is what it is. But now, let me point to this 2022-2023 schedule and how it works out more favorably for State, okay? First thing first, you start off with East Carolina, Charleston Southern, Texas Tech, and UConn. So, one team is FCS, Charleston Southern. 2 of those teams have not had a winning season in a very long time. In a very, very long time. Like, that is not hyperbole. That's not a joke. Eastern Carolina and UConn have both had back-to-back-to-back losing seasons for quite some time here. I'm not just blowing smoke, not just making something up. That is the reality. That is the reality out of what we've seen out of this team. So, at the end of the day, we ought to be able to take care of business and make what should happen against those teams. Okay, so now looking at East Carolina and what they've been, I'm looking at 5-7, 3-9, 3-9, 3-9, 4-8 as their past few seasons, and you've got to be able to beat a team like that, or else, you aren't worth your weight in dog crap, to be honest. Like, that's the reality of what that is. But again, moving beyond that, UConn has been historically bad. And that's not like this is, and granted, I apologize. ECU was 7-5 last year. So they returned to their winning ways after a 3-6 year. But again, that ECU team should not, no offense, they're a group of 5 team that they've played good teams well, but at the same time, I can't see a world where I would accept a loss in that game, even though it is the first of the season. I really and truly can't. Okay, I get it. They're on the road, but it's Greenville, North Carolina. Like, yes, it's a road game, but we need to have enough to win there. Texas Tech, much of the same thing. They just hired a new coach. It's year 1 under a new coach. You don't know what year 1 is going to bring for them. But what I do know is we should not, when all of our players are talking about running pack, we should not be looking at a situation where we walk away from that game with a loss. That's just the cold, hard reality of that. It's at home. We need to be able to win that game ultimately, right? Like, if we want to be a really good team, if we want to be a team that is talking about ACC championship contention, that's going to be a team that's playing a very tough Houston team the game before anyway. I don't see a world where we're super cool with, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. Also, they were 7-6 last year too. So let me stop saying that neither one of those teams are winning teams, but those are two teams that, again, if we want to take ourselves serious, we need to win against East Carolina and UConn and Texas Tech and UConn. We have to win those games. Again, UConn has been historically bad. I know that I'm not a slight bit off there. But the Clemson game is interesting because it comes immediately following the them playing Wake Forest, right? Now, don't get me wrong. The revenge tour thing is a great angle. It really would motivate them to come out and be great, and we do have to go on the road. But they're going to be playing the defending ACC champs the week before. They're going to be looking to show everybody, hey, we're back, and put on a dominant tour de force type of performance. It would not be super surprising to see a letdown the next game after that. It would not be the craziest thing in the world to see that. So you go on from there to Florida State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech. I think those are all teams that we're better than, and that's not really close. We got Wake Forest at home, which is a good thing. And then Boston College, Louisville, and the University of No Consequence to close it out. That, to me, is a very favorable schedule for us. It's a very favorable schedule for us. And I want to see what the under-over is on the season, because I'm willing to bet that it's going to be at least like 8.5. That's what I think Vegas is going to put us at. But who knows? We'll see. If you're a bettor, go to betonline.ag. There might be less football being played, but betonline.net has way more odds and info for this playoff season, from scores, totals, player performances, props, to where the next fire coach is going to land. BetOnline is the number one spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And it's not just football. BetOnline.net's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your number one online wagering destination. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. Play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. So with the way our schedule is set up, best case scenario for NC State. Best case scenario, absolute best, like, everything falls in our way, every roll, every break goes our way. I could see this team running the table. I could. But the reality is, with all of the areas that we're really good at, we also have some spots where we are sorely deficient. I don't think that we have done enough to address our O-line, because outside of Ick, at times we were, outside of Ick and Chandler Zavala, who did not get granted a waiver, an extension waiver to play another year, there were times where it looked like we could not get a lick of push. And that doesn't bode well playing against a Clemson team where that front seven defensively is the star power of the group. And again, Clemson is replacing both coordinators. They are, as talented of a team as they are going through a lot of changes right now. But still, you can never count out a team that is that talented, that is as talented as they are. You can never count that out. And then, I don't want to venture to say this, but I kind of got to say it. Texas Tech is known for throwing the ball around the yard a good bit. And our corners have a tendency to panic when the ball's in the air. That's just the reality. That is just the reality. Our corners, whether or not they can hold up in that game, is going to prove to be the deciding factor. Because in college football, all it takes is for a QB to get hot and your corners to have 4 or 5 bad plays, really bad plays. All of a sudden, you got a totally different ball game than what it should have been. Okay? And then after that, Florida State, not really. Like, that program is in a lot of turmoil right now. They're in a really wild place. But again, it's a very talented team. They have some ball players over there They lost out on the number one recruit in the nation, Travis Hunter, going to Jackson State while he was committed there for a long time. He's going to play for Deion Sanders at Jackson State, but that's still a good team. They picked up some decent pieces through the portal and whatnot. I that's not a team that I'm saying like there's not a world in which we lose to them. Syracuse, however, that's a game that if we lose, we need to be looking at ourselves real hard in the mirror. Virginia Tech, same thing. Yes, this Virginia Tech team is going to be physical. They're going to be defensively sound. They're going to be all those things. Great. They're coming into the Carter, number one. Number two, nobody knows what their quarterback situation is going to look like. And number three, at that point in time in the season, we should be hitting our stride. We really should. Even if we hit some stumbling patches out the block early, Florida State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech should provide some cushioning in there. And then you've got Wake Forest. Now, here's the only thing, though. Here's the only thing. I'm very high on AC Price. I think he should have been named the head coach at Virginia Tech. If they can dominate the line of scrimmage defensively, we're in for a long day. We're in for a long day, that Virginia Tech game. Next thing, Wake Forest. That game, to me, is like, if you want to beat a man, you got to beat the man. Everybody's talking about running back unfinished business. Well, that's the game. That's the game where you got to go show and prove. However, Wake Forest is also bringing back most of their cast. Hartman and most of those receivers are back. You're looking at a situation where this is not going to be a easy peasy game, regardless of how you look at it or how it shakes out. That's going to be a game where you're having to be accepting of the fact that that's going to be a tough game, regardless. That's going to be a tough game. Even with Ja'Cory Robinson leaving, that's still going to be a tough game. Okay? That's what I'm expecting. If we win out in blowout fashion, great. But if not, I'm not super surprised by that. Boston College, with Phil Dracovic being back, and their offense looking serviceable at times even without him. Not saying great, not saying they looked amazing, not saying that they showed out against good defense, but they look serviceable at times without him. With him being back, I think that team is dangerous. That's a different team. And, they're losing some experience on the offensive line, but it's Boston College. It is like they are the Wisconsin of the Northeast. Every time you look up, there's a new set of great offensive linemen rolling out of there. So, who knows, right? Like Garwo is good. That defense last year was surprisingly bad, but you expect under Hafley them to get better going forward. Louisville, they've got some crazy good athletes at Louisville. Malik Cunningham is the beginning of that offense, and so he does a lot of things that really concerns you as a fan or as an opposing coach. He's gonna keep you up at night. But I think we should have enough to beat them. And the University of No Consequences, I think that we got to win that game this year as well. So I'm not sure how many of these we're going to be favored in, but I would be thoroughly shocked if it wasn't at least 9 or 10. I would be thoroughly shocked by that. And granted, based on how we play some of these games early, going down the stretch, we may see that number fluctuate. But this team... Again, I'm a little concerned about the O-line. I'm a little concerned. I'm not going to lie to you. Because worst case scenario, when you have a bad O-line and a quarterback who's already seen his fair share of injuries, knocking on wood, not trying to speak that into existence, but who knows what could happen. Who knows what could happen. So, we're hoping that this thing works out. I mean, hey, the Bengals seem to be doing pretty good, and their O-line is toilet water. I'll tell you what, I think I can get a good sack or two against them. I am fairly certain. You get me back to training. You give me about a month of training. I could do it. I'm wholeheartedly sure about that. So at the end of the day, the hope is that our O-line matures and grows up and plays a little better than they did last year outside of that left side of the line, which of course was anchored by an All-American, a guy who's going to be a first-round draft pick in Big Ick, and Chandler Zavala, a big mauling guard, but we've got to find a way to replace those two. Absolute worst case scenario, I mean, if we stumbled out of the blocks against ECU or Texas Tech. That'd be tough. And then who knows what you feel like and what that game at Louisville comes out as. And from there, again, I still don't think there's a world where we should lose to Florida State or Syracuse. But we've seen stranger things happen with NC State teams before. And, of course, after that, you've got Virginia Tech and Wake Forest. Virginia Tech's strength, again, defensive line that is pretty good against an offensive line that, that entire left side is going to be new. Regardless of who is playing, there's going to be some new faces on that offensive line because one is going to the league and another timed out. So we're going to have two new faces there. And then, of course, you've got Boston College who they should be in for a better year. I think Zay Flowers is going to the NFL. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure Zay Flowers declared for the draft. So, even with having to replace him. Oh, no. He decided he was returning. I'm sorry. He decided he was returning. So, that's a big get for them because, again, with the way our corners appear sometimes, who knows? Louisville, of course, I mean, they seem to be getting it. They seem to be really up and down all over the place, but I think we should be able to beat them. But again, if you let Malik Cunningham run wild on you, well, you're in for a very long day. And the University of No Consequences is a rivalry game. So regardless of what you think should happen or how you believe it should go down, throw the records out the window. Throw any preconceived notions of what should happen out the window, okay? That's because you're wasting your time there. So, all in all, I think that this season shakes out more favorably from a scheduling standpoint. But we'll see whether or not we can take advantage of it. I mean, who knows? It should be a smooth season and a smooth ride. And this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. So why endure the often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning about your vehicle and wait while the person behind the counter orders parts on their computer, choosing only the brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pockets. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So we're about to land this thing, but if you're asking me, where does this team fall next year? I think that we win a majority of the games that we're favored in. I really don't know what our offensive line is going to look like. I think our secondary is going to be much improved. I think our linebacking core, we're going to have more help than we had this year. I think our defensive linemen, deep and talented. I am worried mostly about the offensive line. The backfield, I think that's going to figure itself out. I think we got enough studs, enough dudes there to where we're going to be able to get good production if our offensive line can open up some holes. But any team where you're worried about the big guys, I mean, I don't know. I think realistically, I think that 9-3 or 10-2 in the regular season is possible. Not only is it possible, I think that's what will happen. I think that's what we're looking at. Because, of course, if you run the table in the Power 5, you're going to the playoff. And while that would be great, while that is a thing that's possible, because there's honestly a world where that happens for this NC State team with what all the rest of the conference has coming back. But I think that about 9 wins, this team, is a good season. You potentially find yourself in the ACC championship game with that, and who knows what happens from there. We'll see. Anywho, the ability to take on whoever wins on the other side would be great because there's never been back-to-back winners. And, of course, Pitt with Kenny Pickett leaving, I mean, even with Addison coming back, who knows what they'll be. So who knows who's coming out of the other side. It could be Miami's year. It could be Virginia Tech's year. Who knows? But we'll see. And, again, these are way too early predictions. these things will calibrate and recalibrate and change as the season gets closer, as it's played out, and as we see it happen next year. So just keep that in mind, all right? Thank you all so very much for coming out. I appreciate you every single time, Wolfpack Nation. Peace and love, y'all, and as always, go Pack.
You are Locked On NC State, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.